So yeah, we are successfully have implemented the sign in and sign up. So what's next? Now we want to implement that home screen. We want to use the cloud Firestore and stuff like that. Okay, so pretty exciting stuff to come. So let me just close others. Let's just focus on this. First thing first, I'll make it scaffold, and then I'll add the app bar. So I'll say app bar, and inside the app bar I'll have a title. Okay, so this is not how the app bar is defined. We have to say app bar. Inside that we can say title, and inside title I can say app. What is it called? Like app bar? Yeah, it's called app bar. It takes context and it provides us this logo. But there is one thing we don't want: the background color. We want the background colors to be transparent, and we want the elevation to be 0.0, and we want the brightness to be brightness. Okay. Similarly, if you are using kind of like a dark background and you want this to be white, but for some reason your theme is making it black, you can turn this to dark, and now if you will save this, it will be white. Okay, so we have this now. Now let's move on to the body, and inside the body we will use a container as always. Okay, so for now let's do one thing. I'm not going to add anything to our body for now. Let's first implement the create quiz. So once we have the quiz, then we can play with it. Okay, so I'll say floating action button, and the floating action button accepts a child. That child is going to be icon, and we have some icons already available through material. So I'm going to use this add. Okay, and if I'll save this, you can see a beautiful floating action button right here available because of scaffold. So then we will use an onPress property so that we can do something when it clicks. So now I'll say navigator because we want to navigate to some other activities. Push, not push replacement, because I want the user to be able to click on back and come back to the home screen. For the root, I'll use material page root. Then I'll say builder, and then I'll provide the context, this screen, and then I'll say which screen I want to go. So if I go to the project, we have created these different views: authenticate, home, sign in, sign up, but we haven't created two. So I'll create a new Dart file which is going to be called create quiz, and inside that I'm going to have import material.dart stateful create quiz. If I'll save this, there is an error. Okay, so over here I'll say I will say create quiz. Actually I'm writing not say, but yeah, whatever. So this is what we have. We are saying that navigator.push because we want to have a back option. Navigator.push. Then we are saying material page root, builder, context, and create quiz. So now if I will save this and click on this button, again it's a black screen. Why is it? Because we are inside a container. So we will change that to scaffold. Save that, and I'll say app bar. Why are we writing that again and again? You can just copy, paste. We need to import this, so I'll click on that and click on that and click on import. Okay, it looks fine, but we also want this one, this there is a back button actually which is not visible. So there is an icon theme, I think icon theme data, just a second, it's called icon theme data colors dot black. Okay, so now it looks fine. Okay, so what is up? Well, next we want a body to it. So I'm going to say not container. First we have to say body, then we will provide the body. What is happening? Container, then I'll say child, I'll say column. Why am I using column? Well, just let me show you first, right? Like, let me go to the app, and inside this app, okay, we have to log in first, really. So what was the login ID and password? I forgot about that. So let's just do something like AW, I think. Let me just see if we have that available. Okay, I do. So that is the database, that is the, oh my god, every thing is, so this is the database of my application which I created before, and we have different email available. I think AW is there, so form, I can say, and click on sign in. Okay, so it's working. So this is what we want. So let me just take a screenshot of this so that we know how the add question was, right? So let me take a screenshot of this one as well and take a screenshot of this. I hope we don't need it for a long time now. So now let me close this and come back. Okay, so let's just do it like this a little bit. Close this, minimize this, and we also want to open up this one. Okay, so now what we want these, it's pretty simple. Text field, text field, text field. We will have a form. When we will click on this create quiz. So this button is also being used a lot, right? So let's do one thing. Let me go to the sign in or sign up, and this is the container. Okay, so I'm going to cut this up. Well, we can actually provide the on tap functionality inside of it, but let's keep it separately. So I'm gonna go ahead in the widget. In the widgets, I'm gonna create a new widget. It's very small, you know. You can say widget, and that widget is going to be blue button. This is just the name of the button, and it's going to accept context. I don't think it's required. Let's see. So I'll say return, and I'll just cut this code and paste it here. So one thing which is required, of course, like we need context in this, so I'm going to copy that, or you can just type it out like build context or context. Okay, and we also need this text. We want to be, you know, the user to be able to provide different text. So I'll say string label. Okay, and I'll provide that label over here. Anything else? We want to add this with a semicolon, and I think it's done. So let's go ahead in the sign up, and I can say blue, BLUE, blue button, and we can provide the context, and I can provide the label. Okay, so now that's how easy we have made this. So if I copy this and come back to, I can also implement that to the sign up, so we can do that quickly. Actually, this is sign up. To sign in, actually, I mean, this is the sign in, so I can just get rid of all of this and call it sign in. Okay, now let me copy that, close this sign in, sign up, close that. In the create quiz, what we want these different fields, right? And these are all arranged vertically, so we will be using column for this. And so let's first create these text field. So as I mentioned before, for creating this, we will be creating a form. So form will be like this. So I think I can directly wrap this container into a form. It should work. We'll see if we face any error. So final form key is equals to global key of type form state from, again, form state. Okay, next we will assign this key to our form by saying key and assigning that key to it. Now inside this column we will have a text form field with a decoration, input decoration. We have already discussed this a lot, so I don't think it's required to explain this now. And this is quiz image URL optional. Let's don't keep it optional for this one. And then we can say hint. No, we don't need it. Okay, so we have provided the hint, and let's use a validator. It will return us a value. What we will do, well, we will check if that value dot is empty. Then we will say enter image URL, or else you can return null. And then what do we want? So we have that. Now we want onChange property as well, which will return us a value which we want to be saved in a string. So let's create a string to do so. I'll go over the top and I'll say string, and I'll say quiz image URL, and I'll say quiz title, then I'll say quiz description. Okay, so once we have created all these strings, now I can say quiz image URL is equals to value, right? Pretty simple. Now if I go to my sign up, just wanted to make sure that we have the same spacing as we have. So okay, we were using around 6, so we can go into this and I can provide the same spacing over here. You know, we can even create a constant out of it. Just I don't want to take much of time because it's a good user experience if you're providing same kind of experience, you know. Also we will be using a spacer below this because what we want, like these will be there, then we want a whole lot of space and then this button. So let me save this and see how it looks like. Okay, so we need to update this. So I'm going to say enter quiz title. It's going to be called quiz title. It's going to be called quiz description. Yeah, I can copy that, paste. If I will save that, okay, we also need padding. So padding over here. As I mentioned before as well, I believe padding and margin is clear. So we can even use margin and we can use padding as well. Both will work fine for this. Now after the spacer, we will use the blue button which we created. We just have to provide the label, which is going to be create quiz. So you can see we have the blue button without writing a lot of code. So let me make sure also that whatever the spacings, you know, from the bottom was for sign in, sign up, same will be there for the create quiz. So just below this I'll have a size box of 80. Looks fine, but we can decrease. It's just your personal preference, you know, it's our personal app. It depends. So I think that is fine for me. Now let's go ahead and create a function to upload all of these different values to our Firebase database. So before continuing forward, let me explain what kind of database does Firebase provides and how it works and how are we going to use that. So if you click on this database option, Firebase have two kinds of database. The first is called real-time database and the second one is called cloud Firestore. So this is also a real-time database with it also have some powerful queries and automatic scaling, and before that we used to use real-time database. For this one we will be using cloud Firestore. So just go ahead and click on create database and it will give you these two options. So first is in test mode and second is in production mode. So in production all the third-party reads and write will be denied. So allow it will be totally false. We don't want to do that. The data will be private. We don't want that, but rather we don't even want this. So we will click on this and we will update this false to true. So basically it will allow everyone to access the data. We will actually do it that, you know, only the person who is authenticated can read or write to the database. So now we can click on next. Now it's asking for the location, not giving me any option. Okay, now it is. I'm not sure. I don't think it makes much of a difference after you set the location. Okay, just click on that. Okay, so it has been created. Now to understand cloud Firestore, it's a little bit like this is how it works. So it have collection. Every collection can have a collection name. So for example, I say that will be something, and then we can have a document inside it, and then document can have some fields. For example, name, Sanskar, and place, Gwalior, and I can click on save. So this is how the structure is. You can see this is a collection which we have, and every collection can have infinite amount or number of documents, and each document can have different values. So as you can see, we have a string, number, boolean, map, array, null, time span, geo point, reference. There are multiple data types which you can use, and every document can have a collection in itself. So in very easy terms, you can understand this as a book, or actually a notebook. So this is your notebook. The name of the notebook is something, and this is a one page, and in one page you have these different details written, right? So you have these different values, different things mentioned, and whenever you want to save new document, you will just write something on a new page, right? It's kind of how it will work. So we have a collections have documents, and documents have some values. We will also create a collection inside of this, so it's going to be fun. So let's do it, and let me delete this something, and let's get back to our project. So inside the project, what we will do, let me keep it open. Inside the project, we will go to the services and create a new file which is going to be called database. Okay, inside this database, I'm going to say import material.dart. Actually, we don't need material.dart. What am I doing? Okay, so we will create similarly how we create it for both. So we'll say class, and this is going to be database service, and this is not going to have any arguments. Okay, so inside the database, we will be using Cloud Firestore. So if you're using Android emulator, make sure to set that multi-text enabled. That's really important. And then what we have to do, we will be creating different functions. So let me go ahead and see what we have. So we have these different values which will be uploaded. So let me first show you the database structure as well, what we are going to do. So I'm going to create a quiz collection. Inside the quiz, I will have a particular document ID generated, and then I'll provide the field value like quiz image URL, and there will be a URL of like https://google.com, and things like title, and it's going to be something blah blah, whatever. So this is how we have, and as I mentioned, we are going to create a new collection inside of document which is going to be question and answer. This is one question, and we will have question that will have a for, then we will have option 1, which is going to be app bar, and we will have option 2, and that can be ball or something, whatever you want. Option 3 cat, and option 4 dog, and then we can click on save. So this is the whole structure. So we will have another collection inside of that document, and then that collection will have multiple documents which are basically different questions which we have, and those will contain all the question options available. I hope the database structure of how we will create this is clear to you. Now let's get back to the database service and create a function accordingly. So as we did before for our authentication or auth services file, we basically created some functions which can be called through different screens or widgets, and we can just pass in some data and they will do the rest, right? Same thing will be done for the database. We will create some function which will accept some data, and they will upload it to the Firebase database. If there is any error, they will print it out and let us know. So let's go ahead and create our first ever function in the database service for uploading the data to Cloud Firestore. Now before anything, we can have a function which is going to upload the user information data, right? But we will do it at the end because that is not a lot required right now. So first we will upload the quiz. So how we can do that? We are going to firstly create, say, future. Okay, then the return type, we don't want to this particular function to return anything, so we can just say future void. Then I'll say add quiz data. So that is just the name of the function. Okay, so now what are we going to upload? So as you can see this database, there is a key and there is a value. Okay, this is called a key and this is a value, and this particular structure of key value pairs is called map. Okay, so that is what we can upload. So we have to create a map with these different values, and we will be able to upload that map to a particular collection directly, or we can provide a document ID and add that particular map inside of it. So what we are going to do, we are going to provide a quiz ID, which will be generated when we click on create quiz, and we will pass that to this. So what are the two different things which we will accept? We will be accepting a map, because that's what we can upload. We will upload quiz. This is just a variable name which is called quiz data. This is a map, okay, and then we have a string which is going to be quiz ID. So we can say quiz ID. Okay, so let me do it this. Okay, so this is a function. Now we will write what is going to happen. So we are going to await, and we will have a async function inside this, because we want to use await, right? Now we will say Firestore. Okay, that's why we imported Cloud Firestore. So we can say Firestore dot instance, then we can say dot collection. So this is basically getting the instance of Firebase and going inside the collection. So what is the name of our collection? Our collection name is quiz. So I'll say quiz. Okay, so what do we want? So basically what we want to add in these fields over here. So as I mentioned before, we can provide this document ID and add, or we can directly add. So there are two options over here. As you can see, we have dot add, or we have first document, and then we can say dot set data. Okay, so we have two options. We can directly add, or we can set data at this. So we will be using this option because we want to provide the quiz ID. So I'll say quiz ID. Also in this one, to make sure like we can access this, so to make sure we will be able to, you know, later on when we click on any quiz and able to fetch that questions of it, we will be saving the quiz ID over here as well. So let's do that. So we have a quiz ID, we have a set data. So this is the data which we are getting, which is map. So this is what we want to set over here. Once we set that, we want to also make sure we catch errors if we have any, and print them so that we can fix them as we did before. So I can say print e.toString. Okay, and see that. Okay, so once this is done, let me just restructure this again. So now you can see catch, print, and things like that. So this is the function which we have created. Now let's see again, we will be passing a map and a quiz ID. So let's get back to the create quiz and create that function. So upload, or let's say create quiz online. You can name it anything you want. That's just what I'm thinking about right now. So the first thing, as always, form key dot validate, sorry, current state dot validate. Then okay, so for using that function of database, we will say database service, and we will say database service is equals to new database service. And in this database service, I'm going to go ahead over here and say dot add quiz data. Now we know this accepts a map and a quiz ID. So let's do that. So I'm going to create a new string which is going to be called quiz ID. And in this quiz ID, what I will be saving is a alphanumeric random key, which will be generated by one dependencies which we have, which is this dependency, which is called random string. Okay, so you can just go ahead over here and say random alphanumeric, and the length which I decided was 16. So let's go with that. So what this function does, it just creates a random alphanumeric, which means 0, 1, something like this. It have 1, 2, 3, 4, and alphanumeric key will be generated for us. Now we have the quiz ID. We also want the quiz data. So this is going to be a map, as I said before, and this is map. So as I said, map is actually key value pairs, nothing more than that, right? It's basically key value pair. And as we can see, our key is a string and our value is a string as well. For example, let's say we were saving something like, you know, number of user attempted, something like that. Maybe we are saving that as a number, or maybe as an integer. Then we can say that one. So in that case, our map will have a string value, but a integer or a number as a string key and a number as a value, right? But for this condition we have both key and value, both are string. So that's what we have to say. Like for example, when we are defining a list, we define the data types. Same will be done for map. We will first define the data types of the key. So this is the data type of the key and this is the data type of the value. Then we can name the map. So name of our map will be quiz map, and then we can say equals to, and then we use these curly braces, and now we can provide these. Just a second. Now we can provide these key value pairs. So the first key is going to be quiz ID, which is going to be called quiz ID, this one. Next, what we have quiz image URL, and how can we get that? So we will be getting that through this one, quiz image URL, right? Let's make sure we are saving that quiz image URL. Okay, over here we have to save that to quiz title. So we will be saving the quiz title to quiz title, and we will be saving the quiz description to quiz description. Okay, let's come back over here and save quiz URL, and then what we have, then we will be having a quiz title, then we will have quiz description. We don't need to have this much big, but anyways, let's just go with that. We can just make it something like this, description, short and sweet. Then end this with a semicolon. Now we can uncomment this and pass this map over here. Okay, so we have passed in the map, the ID. So what is next? Now let's do the usual user representation that something is happening. Please wait, which is a loading screen. For that we will create a loading variable which is going to be false initially, and we will set it over here that if it is loading then show this, and if it's not then show this. Inside the container we will have a child as a center, and inside the center we will have child as a circular progress indicator. Okay, so when we will be confirming the validation, we will set the is loading to true, and once that data is uploaded, so I can say dot then. I have no need to use this value because we were returning void, so there will be nothing. It's just going to be null, so we don't want. But basically what I'm doing is I'm waiting for this, and once this is done, we have to use async to use this await. Once this is done, then what I will do, I will set state is loading to false. And also I want to go to the next screen, for which I'll say navigator dot push replacement, because I don't want the user to be able to go back, you know. So I'll say material ph root, and in that I'll provide builder. Yeah, so we will provide the context of the screen in which we are currently, and also then we will say in which screen we want to go. So the next screen is actually a add question screen. We haven't created that yet, so I'm going to go ahead and say add question and hit enter. Now I can say import material.dart, and then I'll say stateful, and that's going to be add question, okay, scaffold, and now I can go ahead and say add question, and then end this with a semicolon. Okay, so hopefully things seems fine. So let me save this and let's give it a try. So if I click on create quiz now, okay, I think we are not even calling this function. So let me copy this and go ahead to our create quiz blue button. We will be surrounding that with, where are you, with a widget which is going to be called gesture detector, and in the on tab functionality we will have a create quiz online. We will be calling this function basically. Save. And also all of these are not formatted properly, so I'm just going to go and say flutter format. Is this the correct command? I forgot. Okay, so we have to say flutter format dot, which is going to format all the different documents we have. Good, right? Yeah. So once that is done, let's just check it out. So now you can see when I click on this, it's going for the validation, and it realized that all of these are not correct, so it shows these different things. So now let's go ahead and get some image. So you can use different websites like Unsplash, Pixels, free to use, blah blah. So which image do I like? You can choose anyone. Let's go ahead and select this one. I'll just click open image in new tab and copy this URL, long tab, and paste. Landscape or mountains quiz. Let's check your geography skills, something like that. It's just a description. Okay, so now I can click on create quiz, but before I do that, let me just delete this document. I hope it's clear. If you have any doubt, comment. Click on create quiz. It's loading. Finger crossed. Okay, I forgot one thing. We didn't updated the rules. So we have been navigated because the process was done, and we are also not returning anything to check if it's saved or not. So the reason why the data is not over here, because the rules says that allow read and write. Okay, we are allowing the read and write to false. Like there is literally no condition. By no means you can add data to this. So we have to change that to true, and we can publish that. Okay, since we are not having any back option that we can go back, so we can just go back to home and we will click on this, and let's do that again. Copy, long tab, paste, quiz title will be mountains quiz. Let's test your geography skills. Click on create quiz. Oops, did something happen? Let's see. Let's reload our database and let's see what happens. Okay, so congratulations, we have successfully added the data to our cloud file store. And now what we want, so well, we have added that. Now we want to add the questions. So first minimize this as well, and open up the add questions. Okay, I think I didn't take a screenshot of that. Okay, why not? Let's go ahead and take a screenshot for that. So what I'll do, I'll click on this, I'll paste it here, I'll say something random. It is random quiz. Create quiz. Actually, I haven't implemented loading in the last one. That was something missing, but anyways. So let me just put it here. Kill it here. And now I can close this and come back to this one. Okay, so this is our add screen, add questions screen. It should look like this. It looks like this right now. Okay, so let's go ahead. Some things which we can copy paste. Let's copy paste. So we're gonna go copy this app bar and this app bar. We need to import this. So click on that. Click on this and click on this and click on import. Save. So you can see we have this now. And what do we want? We want these text fields as well. So of course we will be requiring a form key. So I'll copy that. And what do we want more? We want body. So we need a body. So we'll say container. Inside that we will have, what is this? We want a container as image. Okay, I need to write it out. Container, and inside the container we will use a child, which is a column. Why am I using column? We want to arrange different widgets vertically. Okay, so we are going to use the same kind of structure like this. Text form field. So I'm just going to copy that, paste it. So these are 2. Then I'm going to paste it again, and these are 4, and we want one more. So let me just copy this and paste it here. let's go at the top and create these strings. So the strings are going to be question, option 1, option 2, option 3, and option 4. Okay, 2 it was. Good. So what is next? Well, we want to update the hint text. We want to update this. So we will go back to the first one. We will say this is not enter image URL, this is enter question. And that will be written over here as well. This is the hint text, by the way. This is the validation text which will be written if we enter nothing over there. And we want to save this to the question. So, okay. Now what is next? So we want to enter option 1. Hint text will be option 1, and we will also let the this is going to be the correct answer guys. So what I'm doing is, in our database I'm saving, like, getting options like this, and when we will be showing these options in the quiz play screen, we will be like randomizing. So for example, this option 1 will not be at the first place always, it will be sometimes 2, 3 to 4 place, it will be just shuffled up, so every time it's going to be at a different place. Okay, so what do we want now? We want to save this to option 1, and we will move on over here. We will say option 2, we will say option, not like that, option 2. Okay, then we can save the value which we are getting in this to option 2, and we can say option, not 2, 3, and remove this and say enter option 3. And then we can say quiz, not quiz, we need to say option 3. Also, we don't need that space. I don't know why we didn't use that before, but anyways. So last will be option 4. So I'll say option 4, and we will say option 4, and we will say option 4. By any time you feel I'm very fast or something like that, you can just, there is an option in the YouTube settings, you can just decrease the speed. Edge insets, this is just because we have already done that, that's why I'm not explaining this a lot. Okay, so now we can save and we can see that. Okay, so as we did before, we want a lot of spacing over here, so we will use a spacer. So I'll say spacer. And okay, now this particular section, you can see we have 2 buttons, and the size of them is like not the whole width of that, right? So for this, whenever you have this kind of requirements, what you can do, because we have already created this one, but this have a width of like whole screen, we don't want this for this. So what we can do, we can also go ahead and make this like this. This is going to generate a lot of errors. But what we will, because you can see that right now it's a lot of errors has been generated, but what we want to be able to provide this width property to this. So how can we do that? So well, this is nothing but a particular value, right? So I think this is an integer, so let's just call it like this, button width, and we can just directly provide this media query thing over here. So let's do it this way, button. So we will check if button width is not equals to null, then make it button width, or else make it media query. So how this will work is, because we don't want to play with the ones which we have before in the sign in, sign up, or home, or create quiz, things like that. So what I'm doing is, if we are providing this value, then only this will be set, or it will be predefined. I hope that's clear. Now the reason this is showing an error, because we have changed it from a normal argument to a, what is it called, named parameters, something like that. So you can now say, okay, let me just get rid of this first, and then you can say context. It's really not good. So let me cut this out first, and I'm gonna say, okay, now what you can see, you can say context, and now you can provide the context. Then you can see say label, and then you can provide the label. So this is what happens if you do this. Okay, similarly, let's copy this up, go for the next one, hit enter, paste, cut, paste, remove. Similarly for this one, cut, paste, delete. Okay, it's fine. Yeah, this will be used now. Okay, so now what we can do, we can go ahead over here, and because these are two buttons aligned horizontally, we will be using a row. So I'll say row, and it's going to have two blue buttons. And now of course this is going to take a context. I'm going to say context, and this is going to have a string label which is going to be submit, and also we can provide a button width. So I can say, okay, we have to say label first before providing this. I'm going to say label and then provide this value, and then I'm going to go low and I'm going to say width, media query dot of context dot size dot width /2 minus, so 24 both sides, that will be 48, and I want around 16, or I think 24 will be fine over here. So it should be half minus 24, and this is going to be 24 as well, so 12. So 24 and 12, 36 I think, right? That should work. So now I can just replicate this blue button again and have a property in row which is called space between. We can use that, or let's just give it a sized box, sized box of width, because we want a horizontal spacing of width around 24. So you can see we have this, and also similar to create quiz, we will have this sized box below so that we can have these buttons a little bit above the bottom of the screen. Okay, so I think 24 is not that much required, but I think it's fine. You can play with the design and stuff. We are not here for that, but you can. I think this is understandable why it is 36. It's basically 24 plus 12. Okay, so why 24? 24 is this one which we want to decrease from the width of the display. That is what we get from this. Second one should be add question, QUESTION, and in the blue button we want to add a gesture detector. Gesture detector will have an on-tap property. In this on-tap property, we will be uploading the data, so we are going to create a function for this. Let me call this to do, and okay, so let's name this function upload quiz data, and we don't need any arguments to be provided to this. What we want, so first thing first, we want to check if all of these are filled, right? So how do we do that? We do that by form key dot get the current state, and then we will say validate. After that, what we want to do, so we will do the same thing. We will upload the data, and before that we will set that to true and false, that loading thing, like we create that quick. Bool is loading. We will set the loading up, but first let's go back to our database.dart and create a function for uploading this questions data. So for that, we'll just basically go a little bit down and say future, and this is going to be a function which is going to return void as well. So yeah, after that, let's name the function. I'm going to call this add question data, and then I'll give it quiz data. This is basically a map which I'm providing. I should actually call it question data, okay, and then I'm going to provide it a quiz ID as well. I'll show you why, and this will require that's all. Okay? Then similarly as above function, this will require await, so we will use that async. Now we will do await, and we will say Firestore dot instance dot collection. That's like the same thing, because of course we want to go inside of that, but then what we want. So let me go back to the database and show you what we are going to do. So as I have shown you before, what we want to do, we want to go inside this, but we don't want to add a document over here, by providing an ID to the and then adding a document, but rather we want to create a new collection inside of this document. So what we will do, we will first go inside this quiz. So by writing firebase.instance.collection, we are inside the quiz. Now next thing, we want to go inside a document. That document is going to be the same quiz ID which we provided to the create quiz, okay, which we provided in the create quiz, because that's how a quiz has been created. So I can provide that key over here, and then I can say dot collection. So inside this document we can create a collection. So now what do we want to name this? As I have shown you before, it's going to be named Q&A, question and answer. And then inside of that, we can provide a document ID, but it will never be required to access that. So what we will do, we will directly say add, and this add is going to generate a random ID by itself and adding our map to the collection as a document. So let me just use this. So this is the question data which we will be transferring, and once we have added that, we can catch some errors if we have any. So I can say E, and then I can say print E and semicolon, and everything seems fine, right? Yeah. So let's just save this, go back to our add questions, and let's use this function. To use this function, we have to have that database service equals to new database service, and then I'll say over here database service is equals not equals to dot add question data. Okay, so let's see what we want. So for this, we want a question data and we want a quiz ID. So we have to get that quiz ID when we are going from that create quiz to this screen. So I'll go back to the create quiz, and when we are sending that, where are we sending? So we are sending that in the navigator dot push replacement, and we should pass that value over here. Okay, so how can we do that? So well, we have to go in this add question above over here in the stateful widget, this one, we will create a string which is going to be quiz ID. This is something which we'll be accepting from the last screen. We don't want to change this anyway, so we are going to make it final, and then we are going to accept it through the constructor. What is constructor? Consists same name and this dot quiz ID. Make sure this is inside this. This is a constructor. These curly braces are actually used for named parameter, which will not be required for this condition because we just have one parameter. When we have more than one parameters to be passed, we can use that named parameter thing which we did in our button, blue button, so that we can name what we are providing, and then we can provide the value. So we don't have to have face any problem according to like how they are arranged, like what is first and what is second, things of that nature. So now the first thing which I also want to make sure is okay, it's already red, you can see it's showing an error. So let's add that. So I'll say quiz ID, and that will be passed. It's as easy as that. So now let's get back, and now we can use this quiz ID. So over here we can say, just uncomment that. Over here we can say widget, because we are using a stateful widget, and whenever we get any kind of value in the stateful widget through the constructor, we have to use it like this widget, and then we can see quiz ID. Okay, so that seems fine. Now what about the map? So let's create that map. As I said before, we will say map, and as we can see, the key and value, all of these will never be like option, question, option 1, option 2, option 3, and option 4 will never be an integer or something other than that. Our keys, which is option 1, option 2, and the values, which will be the actual question, are always going to be string. So that's why I'm saying the data type of our key and value pair is string and string. Now let's name our map. So the name of the map is going to be question map, and let's now provide the values. So we will say question, and we will provide value to the question as being question. Then we will say option 1, and that is going to be option 1. Then we will say option 2, and that is going to be option 2. And then we will say option 3, and that is going to be option 3. and then we can say option 4, not like that, actually like this, 4, and that's going to be option 4. Okay, makes sense. We will end this with a semicolon. So now we have a map which we can upload. So now let's uncomment this, and what we can do now, let's just give a second. Okay, so now we can just copy this same thing and call this here. Okay, so this is fine. Now let's fix the loading thing. We want to show this to user when we are uploading this. So I'll say is loading question mark, then show this container, and if it's not loading, then show this container, the next one. Then I can say child, and then going to say center, so that we can make sure our circular progress indicator is in the center, child, and that will be circular progress indicator. Okay, so now we have provided that. So what do we want? So whenever we confirm that the all the fields are validated, we can set state, and we will say is loading is equals to true. For the reason I think it's not clear why I'm using this set state. What set state does, it recreates the screen in which we are, according to the context in which we are, and recreates it with the updated data. So I'm updating this data and then saying to recreate the screen again. So then it will create the screen again, and then it will check, okay, this is loading, then we should show this, not this. So that's kind of how it works. So once this is done, then we can use a property which is dot then, and then we can say we are getting this value, we don't want to utilize it, we just want to make sure that we are doing or performing this action once this thing is done. So I'll just say await as well. To use await, I'm going to use async in this, and then I'm going to say set state, and I'm going to just set it to false. That's all what we want to do, because we should be in the same screen, right? We can click on this submit to close this. So let's do that. So to close the screen, what we can do, we will come back to this blue button, and we will wrap this blue button with gesture detector. So I'll say gesture detector. Okay, then we will use an on tap property, and inside of that I can say navigator dot pop. It's like bubble, like you can pop that bubble and it will be closed. So that's exactly what will happen to our screen. It will be closed. So that's what navigator dot pop is. Okay, so what we have, I think it should work fine now. Let me just, okay, we have to call that function. So that is called upload question, add question. What is this? Upload quiz data. No, upload question it should be, right? Upload question. And I'm going to copy that, and over here the to do, we can call this function, right? When we click on this add question. So now if I will say this, first thing first, we don't have we faced an error, guys. It's pretty big error. iPhone 11, it's not unknown symbol, widget, perform rebuild, lost connection. I'm not sure what happened, so let's restart this again. So what we can expect after this, so when we will click on add question, it will generate a new collection over here, which is Qne, as I showed before, and inside that there is a document which will be added with all these questions and options available. Okay, so after that we will create a quiz play screen, and in which we will fetch all this data. Before that, of course, we will set the home screen, and then we will set the result screen. So that's the things which are left. And also, guys, I'm thinking about providing the timestamps as well, so that if you face any problem, I'll have some timestamps in the description. So if you miss something, you can just click on the timestamp and it will take you there. For example, you were not able to set up something, sign in, sign up, things of that nature. So yeah, let's wait until this is done, and then we can continue. Okay, so it's running perfectly fine. Now the one thing which is happening is when we are logged in, but it's not showing the login screen first. It's not showing the home screen. So for that we have to apply the shared preferences, which we will let's do it now, because so we will go to the main, and let's see. So the add question is settled. We will work on that. Before that, we just want to make sure that if we are logged in, we don't have to, when we open the app again after closing, it should show us the home screen, not the login or sign up screen. So for that, what we will do, we will go ahead and create a new lib folder, which is going to be nothing but package, which is called something like helper, whatever you want to call it. This is just going to consist of some constant and some functions which we will be using. So let's say we can call it constant or functions. Okay, inside this functions, what we can do, we will be creating we will be using the shared preference. So where is the shared preference? Let me see and make sure that we have imported. So this is what we have imported, right? So if I copy that, so this is the package. So what we have to do, we basically have to instantiate, and then we can do these two commands, two functions which we need. We can get and we can set. So what we will do, we will go inside this function and create, let me just create a class first. So I'm going to say helper functions, and inside this class I'm going to create a function which is going to be called something like, what can we call this, save user logged in details, and this will accept a Boolean value is logged in, and we want this to be named parameter so that when we are providing the value, we know what we are providing. Okay, we don't want the user to be user or what, like the program I would say. Okay, so in this, what we will do, we will firstly do this share preference await share preference dot get instance, and then what we can do, we will need to import this. So I'll say import, and then because we want to use this, so we will say async because we want to use this await, and then what do we want? So basically this is save, right? This function is going to be save. So what we will do, we will say pref dot set, not get, set Boolean, and the value which will be, so we have to define some static value. So I'm going to say static string, what do we call, so let's call it user logged in key, which is going to be equals to, so you know what, like I can do it like this, user logged in key. So now you can call it like this, user logged in key. Sorry, it's not going to be like that. That is the key and this is the value. So let's see, what is the error now? So it says undefined name user logged in key. Okay, so we'll remove that. Is it able to access that? No. So it says user logged in key is not okay. Yeah, of course, like we have to call this. And what is the problem with this? We cut paste this. Okay, it's easy to understand, I think now. I think I can go ahead and say static. Okay, we should do it like this actually. Okay, so I just created a simple static string or key. This is going to be okay, which we can use from anywhere. Okay, we can pass in the key. So okay, it's fine. Okay, so we just have to call this function and we can provide a Boolean value to it and it will do its work. It will set that. Now we also want a function by which we can check. So get user logged in details. So inside of that I can say bool is logged in. Again I used named parameter so that I know what I'm providing, and then I'm going to do the same thing, shared preference. I'm going to say preference, and I'm going to say preference dot get. This time we are going to use get. So you can see they have two options, get in. So I can say get bool if they have that function. Yeah, they do. Now we have to provide the key. So what is the key? Key is going to be this user logged in key. Okay, so by this function we can get the key. So now what we will do, we will go to the main, and over here we will say, let's first make our my app to state from stateless to stateful. because when it start we want to check this, right? We want to perform certain function. So for that there is a init state which we can use, and inside the init state what we can do, we can say that let's say I create a value over here, Boolean is logged in, which is going to be initially false, right? Because initially the user is not logged in, but we will create a function check user logged in status, something like that, and this will actually, you know, return nothing, so we don't want to return. But what it will do, it will say first, it will call this class, so it's say helper functions dot get. Okay, so to access these I think we have to make them static, so I'm going to say static let's see, get user details, logged in details, and yeah, we don't have to pass anything, right? Why do we have to pass? We are just kidding, so we don't have to pass this. Okay, so yeah, and also because this is a mandatory thing, so I'm just going to have it required so that it will show me yellow if I'm not providing. Undefined. Okay, undefined. Now it is defined. Okay, so now what? So we basically are saying helper.function.get user logged in details, and that is going to, you know, get, but we want to return this actually, so I'm going to say return static bool. So what is the problem? So function marked must have a return type assigned as a future. Okay, so we can say await. What is the problem now? So function, okay, so this is actually a future bool, so bool. Okay, that is fine. Now what is the problem with this? turn and await applied to Boolean which is not a future, whatever, because we have already waited for it anyway, so we are getting that. So this is returning us value, is it logged in or not, so we want to save that to this function, not function, this variable. Let me make this variable private, and because it's a future we have to wait for it, async, because we are using await. Okay, so basically what we are doing is we are checking the status, and we will be calling this function when the app start, and what we will do now is we will check is logged in, and if it is logged in then we will be showing the home screen, and if it's not logged in then we will show the sign in screen. Now there is one problem as well, because what will happen if there is no data, because right now as the condition is we have signed in or signed up, but we did not save that to the database or like shared preference. So right now when we will call this function, it will return null to logged in, right? So what I'm doing is, if it is null, okay, then we can say question mark false. What does this mean? This means that if the value of this is null, then provide false value to this. Okay, so now if I will run this, let me just check things again, and now if I will run this, it will show us the same screen because we haven't saved anything to our shared preferences yet. So let's go ahead and sign in to the app. So in the sign in we have these credentials. Let me click on this. Yeah, I think this becomes a little bit quick thing which I did. I basically created some functions in functions.dart to save and to get the user details. Very simple, just 2 lines of code, same functions. Okay, so this is the email which we used, random@gmail.com, and the password was just a second, sign in. Okay, so we are in the home screen right now. Now if I close this app, let me just save that, and hopefully it was started in. Okay, so let's test it out if that is working. So this is the quiz maker. Okay, so it's not working fine, because it should have shown us that, okay, so it's not actually connected. We should have, so the data has not been synced. Okay, this the recent functions which we have created are not in sync with what we have over here. So is it running or not? I think it's not. So let's run it again. Okay, so now it is running successfully. So as we can see, we have this screen and these functions should be working perfectly fine. We can like show something like print and all, but right now let's just test it out. So I'm gonna go and use the same email, which is this random@gmail.com. I'm going to say random@gmail.com, and I'm going to pass on the password, which is this one. And if I click on sign in, then it's signing in. Now if I close this screen and click on the quiz maker again, then it's showing us the same screen. So it's not working perfectly fine for now. So let's see what is happening. Okay, so one thing which we also have to do when we sign in or sign up, we have to save that, right? We are just checking right now. So we will go inside the sign in method, and we have the function at the top, and when we do complete this loading false, then what we will do, we will say functions, no, actually useful functions. What is this? Helper functions. Helper functions dot save user login details, and we will set that to true. Okay, and we will do the same for sign up as well. So in the sign up screen at the top, just before we are sending the user, we will set that. So we first need to import this, so I'll import that, and once the import is done, it should work fine then. So I'll say close others, and I'm going to rerun the app again. This time it should be fast. Okay, so it's running successfully now. So now what we can do, we can test it out again. We can say random@gmail.com, and the password will be QRD. Sign up. Now once we sign up, if I close the app and open it again, okay, so we have set it up that it's saving that to be true. Login details, save is logged in. Now let's test out what we are doing wrong. So over here we are saying that this login is saved to user logged in key, and that's the same thing which we are getting when we are, you know, in the main home screen. So let's see what we are doing over here. So right now, okay, so if this is true, then it is showing home, or else it's showing sign in. So that's correct. It's initially false, makes sense. It's waiting until this is done. Okay, so what is the problem then? Well, I think we are saying that if it is logged in, then show that home, or else show the sign in. Okay, it should work perfectly fine. So let's see. So we are creating a boolean, we have a false, and we are setting that to be await helper function dot get logged in details. Let's just check what I have done before and what I am doing in this one, if I'm making any mistake. I don't think, like, because I have done it similar way. Okay, then set state. Okay, how intelligent I am. So the biggest thing is setting the state again, right? So what we will be doing, rather than like doing it like this, let me cut this out. So the problem which we are facing is this is not getting the value, and before even that we are just getting that value. We were saving that, so even if we are receiving that values, it's not being set because we are not using the set state, so that we can update the screen according to the latest values. Okay, so it's just the same value which was defined, but which has been updated, but it's not reflecting. So we have to use set state for that, and inside the set state, what we will do, we will say is logged in is equals to value which we are getting from this. Okay, then now if I will restart the app again, it's really taking a lot of time. I don't know why. So let me stop this and rerun the app again, and now it should work perfectly fine. Okay, so it's finally running, and as you can see that it is showing this particular screen of home screen when we launch, not the sign-in screen. Okay, so let's now move on and work on home, but before that let's test out our quiz. So there we have the database, and let's go back to our Firebase Firestore, this is it. So let's create a new quiz. So there is our image. Let's select another one. So for example, maybe this one, just a random image, nothing special. Copy the URL, paste it here, then give it a title, Lava Science Quiz. Let's test your science skills. Create quiz. Now if you will go back to our database, we can see it has added something over here, but the Boolean expression, we are getting a Boolean expression to be null. I think I know the reason for this. If you go to the add question, we haven't defined we have actually, and we are also setting that, right? So what is the problem then? So to see that, you just have to go, okay, my run is, where is my run? Is this the one app? No, this is not the app which we are running. Just open that for, checking. Okay, so this is the error which we are facing. So as you can see, Boolean expression, if you click on this line, okay, over here inside that, okay, is loading. So when it is checking that, it says that it is null, but it should not be, since we are not providing it a value initially, as I said. So if I will just save that, let's restart the app again, and as you can see, the home is shown, not the sign in and sign up. Okay, so we have to create that again. So let me copy this, excuse me. Then I'm going to paste the URL, and then I'm going to say science quiz. The description is going to be let's test your science quiz skills. And let me just delete the one which we created recently, because I don't want them to be similar one. Now if I click on create quiz, you can see one document is added over here, and all the details like the description, quiz name, quiz URL are there. So now let's test out our add question. So what will happen? It will show us that loading screen. It will generate this map. So if I click right now, validate was called on null. So this is the error which it is showing. So let's check out if we have the form or not. So this is the first mistake which we are doing. So let's wrap up the container with a widget which is going to be form, and okay, let me see, yeah, and then provide the key to be form key. Now if I will save that, so is it running still or not? Not sure. Okay, not again. It's really like, let me copy that, and let me paste that, random quiz, something random, create quiz. Okay, so this is added. Now if I click on add question, okay, that validation is working, right? Now what we want to provide some questions. So I'll say A for apple, B for ball, cat, dog, add question. B for ball, cat, dog, elephant, add question. Okay, so let's see if they are added or not. I think it's not, because it was not visible, but it should, because we have set it that let's see. Okay, there is some space. Let me just maximize the screen size. Okay, so as you can see, the Q&A, the first question, which was A for, actually this is the second question. You can see the questions are successfully saved and it's working perfectly fine. Great. So what is the next step? Now let's click on the submit, which will save that question, which will basically close that screen. Now let's work on the home screen where we want to show all of these quizzes. So let me close all the others. So we don't have anything in this if we talk about the body section of this one. So first let me open up the image. Where is that image? This one. And let me place it here. Okay, So this is how, or this is what we want, right? This is how we want the app to look like, and this is how it looks like. Nothing is there. So what do we want? So first thing first, we should go ahead and create a function inside of our database for getting these. So just after this, we will create a function, and let's just name it get quiz data, and then we will say async because we are going to use await in this, and then we are going to return await, and then we'll say Firebase Firestore dot instance dot collection, and then I'll say quiz dot. Now here's the thing, guys, this particular one was something which I made stream. So basically made with a stream, basically what I'll be doing is we have two options. Either we can show it once, for example, once the data will be loaded and it will be visible, or we can also have a stream so that if any data is updated in our database, then it will be directly reflected on our screen. So we have both the options available. So what we will do, we will use the stream one for this, and we will use the normal one for the quiz which we will play. So let me say snapshots and done. So as you can see, if I hover around, yeah, so you can see this is going to get us a stream of type query snapshot. Okay, so that's what we need. So if we go back to the home, that's what we have to create. We have to go inside the home and create query snapshot. So inside over here, we will create a widget. So rather than having, like creating it all over here, what I will do, I will simply have a container over here, that's all, and we will be creating the whole widget over here, and then we will simply call that function. So that function is going to return a widget, and the name of the function can be quiz list because that's what it is, right? It's not going to accept any arguments, that's why this is blank. Right now it's saying we are not returning anything, so let's return, and we are going to return a container. Inside the container we will have a child that is going to be column. Now, well, column is not that required, so let's skip that for now. So what we will create is, we will basically create a stream builder. So why in the world we are using this stream, and what is a stream? So first let me explain what a stream is. So like there is a river, right? There any water is flowing, and that you may have listened like this is a stream of hot water, this is a cold water stream, and things of that nature. So what basically stream works, or how it is that at a one particular place, like for example the water is flowing from left to right, okay, just giving an example. So water is flowing from left to right, so if I go to the left position and I sprinkle some color over there, it will flow and reach to the next place as well, right, to the right side. That's exactly what happens in a stream. If any kind of data or things is updated on our main place, then it will be directly reflected on our second thing. So that's what we are going to do. We are basically going to connect our app with our Firebase database, that if any kind of change happens over there, it will be directly reflected on our app. Now how will this be helpful? Well, basically let's say we have multiple users who are creating the quiz, and we want to make sure each and everyone have access to all of the quiz which are being created. So for example, I just open up my home screen, but just after 2 or 5 seconds, or maybe 10 seconds, or even after a minute, someone adds or creates a new quiz, then it will be directly reflected at the real time in my home screen. Also in upcoming tutorial which I'm working on a quiz, on a chat app, in that one we will be using that for the real-time chat which we will have. Okay, so let's continue and create this. To use this stream, we use something called stream builder. Okay, in this we will be building its so basically how you can understand this is, whenever our stream says that there is some update, and then this builder will rebuild all of it, right? So stream builder will take two things. First thing is going to be the stream. So let's create that stream. So let me call stream, and as I was saying, like we will be creating a query snapshot. Actually this is going to have in itself, so I'll show that. So this is going to be a quiz stream, and then what we are going to say, so this is a stream builder. Let's provide that quiz stream over here. Then I can say builder. Inside builder we can provide the context, and after context I can say snapshot. Okay, so what happens is, inside of builder itself, it's going to return this snapshot. So this stream already have that data. Okay, so that is going to be reflected over here. So what we will do, we will return, what we want to do is we basically want to return a list view, right? If we get all this data and we are done. But before that, let's check if the snapshot, the data in the snapshot is not equals to null, because we don't want to show it if it's null, right? So what I will do, I will give it a condition and I'll say container, and then I'll show list view. So what I'm doing actually over here, what I'm saying is, if if the data snapshot is the data inside the snapshot is not null, then show the container, or else show the list view. Now inside the item builder, what we will do, we will basically have multiple properties, but item builder consists of context as well as the index, and then we can return the widget which we want. So I'm going to say return and the widget. So we haven't created that widget yet, so we will create that. But in the meantime, let's add some other properties. The one of very important is item count. Okay, so item count and item builder are two very important, kind of a must property to give when we are creating a list view through list view.builder. So now I can say snapshot.data.document documents.length. Okay, now it will be available, so we can basically get the length of our document. Now what is the next step? The next step is to create this particular tile so that we can show it over here. So we will go at the bottom and then we will create a stateless widget, which is going to be called let's say quiz tile. Okay, in this particular widget, we are going to first make it stateful, because okay, I don't think we will require any kind of update. So the reason why I am making it stateless is because once the data is loaded, we don't have to perform any kind of update to this particular UI or anything in that nature. We basically just want it to be static how it is. So we will be using a stateless widget for that. So let's see the structure of this. So basically it's that there is an image, and above that image we have two text which are arranged vertically. So it's very understandable that we will be using a column for that, and because they are one above the other, we will be using a stack. So let's see how that works. So for the container, we will provide a child to the container, and that is going to be stack, and the stack is going to have children. So the first children will be image.network. Now this URL will not be the same for everyone, right? So we will be accepting that through the constructor. So let me create a final string, because this string is not something which we already have defined. We will be accepting this through the constructor itself, and that will not change. So I'll say image URL, and the next thing which will be required is going to be the title, and the next thing which will be required is going to be the description. I know we can like directly have done it by comma, but whatever, it's one of the same or the same thing. Okay, so now I'm going to make this a named parameter so that we can make sure we can provide the title first, description second. We don't have to worry about what's the configuration is, like which one is first. We don't have to take care of that. So now I can say this dot description. And one thing which I know is all these different fields are required, which means it's must to give this values, or else it will show null and different things like that. So I will be adding this property of required over here so that I can make sure that this is working perfectly. Like basically what will happen if I will not provide these values, it will show a yellow color over there, which I'll show you. So for example, if I copy this right now, we have an error over here, so let me fix that first. And if I paste this now over here in the return, so I can say this quiz style. Now you can see it's yellow, and the description is required. It mentions that the description is required, parameter description is required, parameter image URL is required, and parameter title is required. Okay, so first what we will do, we will add a semicolon after this. Now of course we have to provide all these properties, but first let's complete this particular tile. So above the image, what we will have a container. Okay, that container is going to be sitting above this image, and in that we will have a child as a column. Why am I using column? Because I want to arrange two text widget in a vertical format. So let me give it the title. So this is not going to be something which is predefined. It's going to be something which we accept from the constructor. So right now you can see I'm not providing it much of a as per se the design or the particular style to it, because the first focus of ours is to just have some data on it which is visible, right? Then continuing forward, we can work on how it looks and the things like that. So let's do that. So first what I will do, I will have the image URL over here. So I'll say image URL, and how we are going to get the data from the snapshot is by saying snapshot dot data dot documents and dot length. So sorry, this is the for the length. So now what I can do for documents dot data, so just a second, yeah. So this is actually, you know what, this is a list, right? So we don't want a whole list, but rather what we want particular index element of it. So I'm going to say documents, then index. So now we have a particular document. Now I can say dot data dot in data we can provide the key to the value which we want, right? So for this, what is the key which we have? So if I go to my database, which is over here, what is the key? The key is quiz image URL, right? That is the key. So I can say quiz image URL. So let's confirm. So it is quiz img URL. So U is not capital, so let me make sure that it is small. Of course we can update this, but right now it's not the time because already our data is uploaded. So let's make it like this. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. And now what we will say, we will go to the next screen. Let me do one thing quick so that we can make sure that the whole thing is visible. The next parameter which we want to provide to this is, it says the description is required as well. So I'll say snapshot dot data dot document, okay, dot documents, then index, okay, then dot data, and then we can provide the key. So what is the key to the description? So the description, this is the value and this is the key. So the key is quiz disc, DESC, right? So I can say quiz DESC. Okay, this is how we will get the description. Next thing, it mentions that we need the title. So I'm going to say title. That is going to be snapshot.data.documents, and let's say documents, and inside that I'm going to provide the index, then dot data, and then we can provide the key. So the title is this one, quiz title, camel case, quiz title. So now we have this, but we are not getting the quiz stream. So when do we want? So basically this is the function, okay? We have created a function which is called get quiz data, and this is going to get the data as a streams, as a stream of query snapshot, and we will have it, but we are not using this function right now, right? So to use this function, first of all, we will go ahead and say database service, and we will say database service is equals to new database service. And then what we will do, we will be getting this data in the init state. So what is that and why? So basically init state is something when our app starts, this function will be called. So if we have any particular thing, anything, task to perform, any function to call, we can do that. So that's definitely our requirement. We want to make sure that all of these images and like all of these quiz are loaded when we open this screen. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say database service dot get quiz data dot then we will receive a value, right? I want to assign that value to my variable of quiz stream. So I'll say set data, remember, don't forget this. So I'll say quiz stream is equals to value VALU, okay, it's just val right here. So it's going to be val. So let's see again. So we have created this list. Now let me copy that and call this instead of using a container, and let's go around it and see how it is. So we have a stream builder, we have provided a stream to it, we have a builder, and we have a container, and we have a list view dot builder. We have provided the item count, we have provided the item builder to it. There are multiple properties like shrink wrap which we can provide, but we don't require that because it's not inside. For example, if it was inside a column, we have to provide the shrink wrap and stuff like that. So without any further ado, let's restart the app and see what happens. So as you can see, we noticed an error for a second, and then it was not working. So let's see what was that error. So it mentions that this is the place where the so it says that relevant error occurring in this particular stream builder. Okay, understandable. So what is the error? It says that if we click over here, this, so basically it's the documents are null. Okay, so what is happening is we are actually checking. So let's confirm that again. Okay, so this is a wrong condition. We are saying if it's not equals to null, then show the container. If it's equals to null, then show. This is a wrong condition. We want to make sure that if this is equals to null, then only show this container, or else show the list view. So let's restart the app again and see what happens. Okay, so all of our 3 quiz are successfully loaded. Congratulations, we are able to upload the data as well as we are able to fetch the data as well. So without a further ado, let's now make this look like something like this. So how can we do that? So the first step is going to be setting up the height for the image, and that is going to be 150. We can do this inside, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to provide my container this height, so it's gonna make it easy for me. So right now if I go, okay, so I have lost connection to the app or what? I don't think so. Yeah, we are in connection. Okay, so as you can see, the size of the images are arranged to be same, but their, the width is not. Width is according to how their dimension is, but we don't have something like that. What we have is we just want to make sure that the dimension, whatever the dimension of the image are, it should be represented just the same like that. So how can we do that? So the first thing is we want to make sure that we are taking the whole space of the screen of the display. So we are going to provide that width to our container, but let's go ahead and provide that width directly to our image. So I'll say media query.off context dot size dot width, which will provide us the width of the display. I will subtract 48 from it. Why? Because I want to provide some padding, and this time it's not going to be padding because we don't want the image to be spaced inside of the image but outside, so it's going to be margin. So let's go ahead and provide that margin. So I'm going to provide that margin to this container. Actually, we can even provide the padding to this as well, and it will work similarly. So I'll say horizontal and around 24. So if I will save this now, I'm not sure why these save thing is not working, but this is what we will see. Okay, so makes sense, things are fine and things of that nature, it's in the middle, but that's not what we want. We want it to be taking the whole space. Why is it not taking the whole space? Well, because initially how these are structured is that image will make sure that its dimension is how it is, but we don't want this. What we want the image to take as much as the space which we have provided. So we have provided the image dimensions to be height to be 150 and the width to be the width of the display minus 48. We want that image to take that much space. How can we do that? We can use a property called fit. We can say box fit dot cover, and if I will save this now, okay, why is restart and hot reset is now okay? Now you can see it's perfectly working fine. It's taking the whole space, and also we have a space and stuff like that. Looks good, right? Now what we want, the second step is to take this text and put it in the center. So how we can do that? So well, first thing first, we can provide the same height to this one. But Sanskar, don't you think it's inside the same, so it should have the same height? Well, the answer is it does not have the same height. So how we can check that? We'll just give it a color and see what it is. So if I will save this, okay, again save is not working, I have to go here. So as you can see, like these are the different like how they are covering. So as we can see, like they are actually having the same height. So I can actually go ahead and say alignment, and then say alignment dot center, and it will align that to the center. Oh my god, I cannot close this. Align that to the center, and now I can get rid of the color blue. So it's actually working fine. We don't have to work a lot for that. Okay, so now what we want that to be aligned vertically center as well. But why is it aligned vertically center? Well, let's see. When we have color blue, it's at the top, right? It's not even in the middle. So what's the problem? The problem is inside this column, right? So what container did with this alignment property, it aligned the column to be in the center, but the column is taking up the whole vertical space. So what we can do, the main axis of a column is a vertical axis. So what we can say main axis alignment and main axis alignment dot center, which will align all the elements or all the widget of the column in the center. So if I will remove this color now and restart or reset, you can see it's in the center now. Also, we want to provide a little bit of a bottom margin. So I'm going to go ahead over here and say margin and then edge insets dot only, because we just want to provide margin from one side, and that is going to be around 8. So now if I will save that, okay, so you can see also we want to provide a little bit of border radius to this. So I'm going to wrap this image into clip r rect, and then I'm going to say border radius dot circular, and around 8 should be working fine. Let's see. I think it's fine. Okay, so also for the text, I don't think it is standing out. For this image, it's like fully invisible, right? We don't want that kind of nature from it. So what we are going to do, we are going to provide our container of color, which is going to be kind of a opacity. It's going to have a lot of opacity. So basically, I'm providing black 26. So it's going to give it a black texture, but at the same time, it will make sure the text tries to pop out. So how it can make sure that it is visible by changing its color to white. So I'll say colors white. Now if I will save that, you can see we got that background shade of black color and we got this as well. Now one thing which you can notice at the corners, that this black shadows is standing out and it's not having the same thing which we have in the image. So I'm going to copy this border radius, okay, whatever we have provided to it, and then we inside this container of ours, we can go and say decoration, box decoration, and then we can provide this border radius. If I will save it now, as I said before, it's going to show us an error. So cut this color and paste this. Now if we will save this again, it's going to be working perfectly fine. Okay, so now let's move ahead and give some different properties like font size, which I want it to be 17, and font weight, which should be something like, you know, font weight dot maybe 600. Looks good. Okay, I think we don't want that much. I'm good. If you want, you can go for that. I think this is fine. For now, I'm going to copy this, paste it over here, just decrease the size to something like 14, and we can save this. So now you can see both of them are visible perfectly fine. Just to make sure this stands out, I just decrease the font size and also giving a little bit of space between them, or a vertical space. I'm going to use a height of around 4. I think that will be fine. Let's go a little bit more, maybe 6 around, and save. So you can see now it's looking perfectly fine. It looks good. And okay, so like our home screen is done, our create quiz is working perfectly fine. So the next step is to create the play quiz screen, and in that we will be getting the data of our quiz which we have uploaded to our Firebase Cloud Firestore and showing that and playing the quiz. Then we will create a result screen and then we will show the points. Okay, so let's continue with that.